For our next recipe, I'd like to introduce Molly Collins, who's going to show us how to do a beautiful Easter bread from Puglia. Thank you for joining us, Molly.
It's a pleasure, Caterina.
Wonderful. Now, of course, you're going to do a very, very well-known recipe from the Puglia area called
Canestrelle.
Of course, in its original, the original name was Cucina, which came actually from Lecce in Puglia. And Molly, of course, comes from San Marco in Lamas, which is a very beautiful hillside town, isn't it?
It's beautiful. Yes,
and,
it is.
Very religious, because we know all Italians are religious, but I know in this area
they have processions at Easter time. It's very celebrated in San Marco, and we make these canestrelle, and then we have an egg in the centre with the pastry that crosses over the egg, and which actually looks like a cross.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And of course, eggs are the thing about, I guess, rebirthing. Eggs feature very predominantly in a lot of the pastries and foods of Easter time. Like boiled eggs are a big thing for a meal. Would you believe that?
Indeed, of course.
Yeah, they do,
They do.
So there you go. So as I said, lots of names. Scarcelle di Pasqua is what perhaps a lot of people will know these as. But of course, Signora Carolina has taught Molly how to make this recipe, and she calls it
Canestrelle.
There you go. We're going to go into the kitchen, and Molly's going to give us her take on this amazing plated bread.
Now for the festive bread, I'm going to use 3 dozen eggs because we have a rather large family. So this will make probably about 12 of them, depending on the size. Now, before I'd like to break the eggs individually, one by one, simply because you might have 2 dozen eggs in the bowl, and you might get 1 rotten egg, and then you've ruined the whole batch. So it's best to do that. Just crack one at a time into a bowl, and then just put it into the large bowl where you're going to mix it. All right, now that I've got my 3 dozen large eggs in a bowl, I'm going to add a large tablespoon of oil for each egg. Right, now that I've got my 36 tablespoons of oil in the bowl, I'm going to do 36 tablespoons of sugar. It's quite quick, really. I know it seems like, oh, for heaven's sake, but really, there we go. Okay, now I've got the eggs, the 36 eggs, the 36 tablespoons of sugar, 36 tablespoons of oil, and now I'm going to add the lemon juice. Now, if you don't have a lemon tree or whatever, you actually don't need to put any lemon juice if you don't want to, but it gives it that nice tang. I've got 8 squeezed lemon, and then I'll put them through the sieve so that you don't get any sort of pips or anything in there, and I pop that into the mixture as well. Now that lemon juice, 8 lemons, that gave me roughly about 400 mils of lemon without the pips. It's a good idea to put that through the sieve, as I mentioned before, so you don't get any sort of pip in there at all. And now I'm about to mix the mixture. Now, when you mix this for about 5 minutes, and you will see that the egg, the sugar, the lemon juice and the oil have all blended together. When it's all blended well, then you start adding the flour to it. So it's probably a good 5 minutes with the electric mixer on high. Now, for the 36 eggs, I use 2 kilo self-raising flour, 1 kilo of plain flour, and I sift it through. As you can see, put it in a bowl, and then we're going to add it to the egg mixture slowly. Now that the mixture is done, the oil, the sugar, the lemon, and the eggs, and I've sifted through the plain flour and the self-raising flour, now I'm going to add it to the mixture and mix it, and probably a couple of handfuls at a time, and mix it through. You can either use your wooden spoon. I like using the wooden spoon, but it's quicker. Sometimes it can be quicker if you use the electric mixer. I guess the reason I use a wooden spoon is probably because that's how they used to do it in the old days, and watching my grandmother always use a wooden spoon. I always I tend to go for that. You know, sometimes it's probably quicker to use modern technologies. Now, unless you've got a commercial mixer, it's now time to knead this with your hands. As you see, it's become quite firm, and I will be adding a little bit more flour to this, because it's not quite, it needs to be firmer than it is, and it becomes quite difficult with a wooden spoon as well. So now I have to get in there and mix this with my hands. I've mixed it to a firm consistency. I need to place it on the board. You now need to put some flour on the board so that the mixture doesn't stick, as you will see. Probably the hardest and the trickiest bit of the entire recipe. It's always good if you've got, you know, someone there that can help you do this. So then we need to put some flour, and we need to knead it to a firmer consistency. Now, as you can see, it's just about got to the point where it's ready for me to cut it and roll it and make the plats. Just cover it for about, as I said, half an hour. Half an hour is enough. You can do it for an hour. Go about your business. You can clean up around you and let it rest while you're doing that, and then come back to it. Get your baking trays ready. Just pop it on, or you can cut a circle around it if you wish. Now, as you can see, I've got 2 round ones and I've got a square one. So whatever baking trays you've got. Now, for the purpose of this dough that we're making, I'm specifically making it for Easter. So we put an egg into the shape of the dough. We add an egg, but you should use those eggs at room temperature and place them in some warm water. We're now going to shape our festive bread. I'm going to do 3 long strips, about a handful, like so, and you roll it out. And you move fairly quickly with it. You don't need to do it for too long, and it's best to roll it out from inside in, out, like so. And the least you work it, the better, so it's best to do it fairly quickly. Right, now that we've got 3 relatively even strips, we're going to plait them. And you see how the dough is really pliable? That's how it should be, easy to manage. And if you need to stretch them a little bit, that's fine. It doesn't matter if they're not exactly even, because once they're cooked, they blend in together, and it's fine. Now that we've done the plait, we roll it around like that, and you put it together here, because in here you're going to put an egg. Now we're going to lift it and put it into a baking tray. Now I've got the eggs in the warm water, and a little tip, the eggs, when they're wet, they actually sit better here into the dough. So sometimes they might tilt a little, but you see how it's standing straight. Now I'm going to break off a little bit of dough, just a small bit, and roll it and put it across the egg like that. Another little strip, roll it, and we put it across this way, like that. Now for my egg wash, just break an egg and mix, just beat it up with a fork, and then we use a little brush, and we just brush over the plait. Now this goes into a preheated oven. I have a fan forced oven, and it's preheated at 225. If you find that they're cooking a little bit too quickly, you can bring it down to 220, but not It's got they got it. They cook fairly in a hot. You need to cook them in a hot oven. Now leave them in there for about 25 minutes. I've taken it out of the oven. Now when you take them out of the oven, just be careful because they're warm, they can they might break. So just be careful when you take it out and let them cool.
Well, viewers, I hope you have enjoyed this amazing show on Easter. Of course, I extend a big thank you to Dominic and to David.
Thank you.
Showing me the very fine art of how you make this, because it's got a lot of process. And I know I asked you, Dominic, whether I could come and purchase some here, and you said, hell no. This is all in the planning stages, but maybe by next year you might have a commercial production of them, I hope.
Absolutely. Sounds
Of
good
course,
to me.
Molly, a big thank you to you, because also the wonderful braided bread of Puglia is something, of course, that I know so well. And, it's that thing that you can have for breakfast. See, that's a breakfast dish for me. It is. So thank you for your skill. And let me tell you, how good was she at rolling that dough? I think she's taught you guys a couple of things.
She did.
She did, yeah. All right. Alla prossima, of course, Prosecco, the perfect drink to have at Easter. Have a safe one, viewers. Thank you. Stay tuned.
Salute.
Ciao. Alla prossima. Ciao. Ciao. Bene.